All right, welcome back to the More Than Different podcast with your co-hosts, as always, Colin and Brendan McNamara. We have a guest on the pod. It has been almost 2 years since we've had a guest on the pod, so we brought out a heavy hitter, Chris Giordano, Coach Giordano, founder of Gold Standard Hoops, coach of the best AAU team in the country, Middlesex Magic, former head coach at Lesley University, teacher in the Lowell Public School system for 12 years now.
Yeah.
Assistant coach at Tufts University. Graduate of Rivier University. GNAC champion 2000.
Yes, sir.
Is that right? All tournament team.
Yep.
A father, a husband, and an absolute legend. Coach Jim, thanks for coming on the pod.
Thank you for having me, gentlemen. It's good to be here.
Simple.
Unreal. Yeah. We couldn't make the intro short there. It was well deserved.
Wow. Yeah. I really appreciate that. I really liked it. If we want to do it again so I can hear it again, that'd be great.
I gotta get one thing off my
I don't think we're recording yet, Brent. Are we recording?
Yeah.
We might have to run that.
So
if you guys hear my children screaming in the background, it's normal. So
it's good to know. Good to know.
Yeah.
So I guess what we wanted to jump into, right, is obviously following your, league championship in the GNAC, obviously, a while back, and here you are now. Obviously, you have your gold standard sweatshirt on, kind of running your own business. I kind of wanted to take it back, essentially, to like kind of post college life and kind of once you start to make that transition first. What goes into the decision and kind of pursuing basketball again, and then just take me through kind of what that story's like going from, graduating, getting into coaching, and then getting to where you are now.
Yeah, I think I always knew I wanted to get into coaching. I was lucky enough to have some really good coaches throughout high school. Obviously, in my time with the Magic, being able to learn from Coach Crotty Sr., he was the one who really he toughened me up. And I remember just being like 13, 14, 15 years old. And I'm like, I really like the way he does things. And then like he'd scream at me and I'd be like, ooh, I don't know if I like that too much. But then he'd take you under his arm and he'd be like, hey, this is what you need to get better. So, I knew from a pretty young age that I wanted to get into coaching. I started doing camps when I was about 15. I even remember back like middle school. I used to write up like plays for my travel team. We had in my kitchen a dry erase board, and it would be like, my parents would be like, grocery lists and this and that. And like in the corner, I was like, if we stack on a baseline out and this guy sets the screen, and, it was funny because like the coaches actually use them. They like use my plays. So, I knew from a really young age that I wanted to coach. And, when I went to college, when I went to Riv, I played for Dave Morissette up at Rivier. And when he recruited me, he was just like, we're going to rebuild here. And we see a championship in our future, and we're going to start it with your class. I was recruited there. And then one of my biggest rivals in high school, who scored 1,400 points, he went to Mackinac, I went down to Catholic. He was recruited there as well. And I didn't know that until like midsummer after I was like deposited in. And, I don't know if people committed in 2003, but, it was one of those things where I was like, oh man, like that's a really good recruiting class, and then my sophomore year, we were even better. My junior year, the third straight recruiting class came in and we started to see potential. And then, my senior year was super interesting. And it was probably a defining year in my life. Our expectations were pretty high for ourselves. We knew that we had the talent to win a championship, but things just weren't clicking, and my coach and I weren't in a great spot. And I remember when he picked captains, I wasn't picked, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
And I remember going into that year, I was like, I'm going to be a captain. I'm going to be a leader. Because my junior year, he really empowered me to speak up a little bit more and, to lead a little bit more. In my junior year, we had no seniors on the team. And so, when senior year came around and he's like, yeah, you're not going to be a captain. I was like, that's interesting. And so that caused a little bit of friction. But as soon as I got kind of out of my own way, I was like, I don't need a title to be a leader. He really empowered me and gave me the floor to like speak pregame, like almost pregame speeches to my team as a player. And he was so good about that. He was just amazing. And yeah, we started out the first semester with 5-4. And second semester we figured it out. Went 14-4 the rest of the way and won the first conference championship in school history. So I knew as soon as I graduated, I was like, no, I called him up. I was like, you need to call everybody to get me a job. And then I became the head freshman coach at Nashua North High School.
Hell yeah.
In 07-08.
From the ground up.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. We didn't.
How'd the boys do?
They did well. And you know what's interesting about New Hampshire high school basketball is they have tournaments for each level. So we made the state tournament for the freshmen.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool. And we played Manchester Central at Manchester Central, and we lost by 1. But the boys, they were good, man. Like we started out not so great, hit our stride mid-season. We finished, I want to say I think it was like 12-6 or somewhere around there. And we lost to Manchester Central, but those guys were great. And Lord, they're like almost 30 now, so it's kind of crazy. But yeah, I knew from a pretty young age that I wanted to coach, and I've just kind of always had that that leadership type about me. I like to do things my way, and and kind of create teams.
Exactly. So one thing I want to ask real quick is, what's the crossover like between coaching and teaching, and what are some of the hardest things you've had to deal with in bridges you've had to cross in the coaching scene? Obviously, like it's a rocky road, right? I remember getting recruited to Lesley when you were head coach, and going into my college years, and then then you become an assistant at Tufts. And then, so you're kind of moving around. You're associate head coach, then to a full head coach, then you're going back down to assistant, obviously at high school at Tufts. And then, obviously a lot of trials and tribulations, a lot of personalities, players to deal with.
Ooh, baby.
You know what I mean? But, what's that like though?
Yeah. Man, rocky road is a really great way to describe it. When I tell you, man, in my 20s, I was hell-bent on being a head coach. I would sacrifice anything to be in that position. And I became a head coach of a college, NCAA college basketball team when I was 29 years old. And, at that point in my life, I was like, 7 years ago, I was coaching freshmen at Nashua North. And now I have to like recruit people to come to a school. And, we don't have a full-time coaching staff. We don't have a gym.
Yeah.
We're playing at BB&N.
Right.
But it's such an interesting path. And and B-Mac, I think we briefly spoke about this in text, but like, I was at the point where I was just, like I said, I was hell-bent on becoming a head coach in college and being successful, and at the same time though, I wasn't fulfilled. I met so many great people in my time, my decade of college coaching, and being able to recruit the student athletes that I have and the relationships that we still have together all this time later, I wouldn't trade it for the world. But there were some days where, I'd wake up at 5 and I'd do film for an hour, and then I'd eat breakfast. I'd make my way to school. I'd teach until 3. I'd head down to Cambridge. I go to a Harvard practice and kind of watch them and do the networking thing. Then I'd head back over to Lesley, which is right next door. Around like 5:30, I'd grab something to eat. I'd watch some more film. We'd have film as a team. and we'd practice like 7 to 9. And, I was driving home like 10 o'clock, and I'm like, I don't know if this is it, it's such a grind. And, climbing the ladder in college basketball coaching is really difficult. And there's a lot more people who want to be coaches now than there ever were. But, I think that having, hindsight is always 2020, right? And kind of what I'm doing now, I never, when I was a basketball coach, I never would have thought while I was in the college game that like I would want to own a skill development business or be a skills trainer.
Yeah.
But now here I am on the other side, and I'm like, I would never go back to college coaching. It's crazy, man. I mean, there's so many rules, and there's so much sacrifice. And, I think the thing that really kind of turned me was a few things, but as my wife and I started to grow our family, being ever more present there and having control over my time became a really important factor. But there was also a health factor to it too. I remember my last year at Tufts, I'm getting like 5 hours of sleep a night. My daughter was like 7 months old, about to be almost, going on to be a year, and she would have been that season. And I'm like, not eating right, not sleeping right. And then, in the blink of an eye, I'm sitting on the couch one Sunday night, and I don't really feel good. And this goes on for 5, 6, 7 hours, whatever. And I eventually drive myself to the hospital, and the doctor's like, yeah, man, you need your gallbladder out like yesterday. Yeah. So, yeah. I remember the doctor coming in, and she was straight to business. She was like, I've done this a million times. You'll be fine. I'll see you tomorrow, or I'll see you later today. Whatever. I'm like, okay, sure. And after the surgery, she came in. She's like, if you're 54 and you get your gallbladder out, sure, whatever. You're 44, you get your gallbladder out. She's like, not great, but still manageable. She's like, you're 34 and you get your gallbladder out. She's like, you're not sleeping, you're not eating right, got a family. It might be time for a lifestyle change. And that hit me right at the core. I was like, that was the sign. I was like, it's time to move on, but I also, I worked my ass off, man. Right. And there's a lot of trials and tribulations when you're coaching basketball, but the things that I learned there have molded my philosophy, and they've helped with my business. The things that I've learned in teaching have helped the business with Gold Standard. I mean, over this past year, I've written 3 drill books and curriculums, and they're set up exactly how kind of an academic curriculum would be set up. So all of our programming has that behind it, which I think sets us apart just a little bit. Because we have skills academies and development leagues and all these things, and people are like, oh yeah, they go there, but what are they actually learning? Well, our stuff's broken down week to week with drills, and percentages of like how much time we spend on certain drills, warm-ups, how we learn and apply.
There you
go. Shout out to our last podcast.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, B-Mac, I did my homework too, man. Don't you worry about it.
Yeah, there.
But it's funny because I mean that, and that episode resonated with me. I'm like, that's exactly what we do here. So it's been a crazy path, man. But I wouldn't trade anything that I've kind of experienced for the world. It's just been amazing. I mean, basketball's given me so much, man. Like I'm so lucky. It's crazy.
Yeah, I've talked about this on prior pods, is this idea of when you have hindsight, the dots start to connect and everything starts to kind of make sense, what brought you to this point of where you now are. Mm-hmm. And so I'll leave with that to say, following, once you kind of had this epiphany of, all right, I need to make some adjustments to my life, I may need to give up this coaching thing. How much went into contriving a plan for starting Gold Standard. We'll get into Gold Standard and what that's about, but obviously that's your kind of next endeavor as you're still teaching, I imagine, along all this. So then what was the pivot like?
The pivot was tough. So I had the surgery at the end of November of 2019. Lucy had just turned a year in that November. And Anthony, my wife was due with Anthony in March. So I'm out of coaching from December to January, February to March. And I'm not gonna lie, like I was lost. I remember being like, man, going to work every day, teaching, and then coming straight home. And I'm like, I teach because it allows me to coach, and I'm not coaching. So, what am I doing? And you talk about your purpose in life. It was a really trying time for me. Like, I'll be dead honest. And then Anthony's born March 5th, and 2 weeks later, 2020, world shuts down.
Right.
And that gave me plenty of time to spend with my family. And, you kind of like, you can't go anywhere, right? And you're going grocery shopping and you're wiping everything down with bleach, and you got masks on and gloves and the whole deal. But those moments when my son's a brand new baby boy and my daughter's like 15 months old, 16 months old, I'm like, we get to spend the next 3 months together, every minute of every day, me, my wife, and the two kids. And I'm like, I didn't really care about anything else at that point. I wanted to keep them healthy. I wanted to keep them safe, obviously. And, I feel like we're in the clear now, but, at that time, like I wasn't thinking about my next move. Wasn't thinking about basketball. But as time went on, around July of 2020, I was like, let me see what I can do. Like, how do I get back in? And I had 3 kids that I was training on the side. One of them was 4th grader. One of them was a 6th grader who was also my niece. And one of them was a 7th grader going into 8th grade. And, I was just like, let me give it a name. Let me start a website. And let's treat this as a business. And, I didn't want it to be like a superficial thing. I didn't just want to be like, hey, here's my logo and here's my Instagram. I think we set out from the start to be different, which is obviously another way that, the 3 of us kind of see eye to eye in how we connect. But I just wanted the product to be the highest possible quality. But it was interesting to start because, my brother essentially bankrolled the company. I remember being like, no, man, I'm not going to charge you. And my sister-in-law's like, yeah, no, you don't work for free. She's like, if you're going to do this, you're going to take it seriously and we're going to pay you for it.
Yeah.
And, at that time I was like, okay, that sounds good. But at the same time, it was like, I don't know what I'm doing yet. This is like my first workout, but it's crazy. I look at those 3 kids. It started with 3 kids in a driveway during COVID in 2020. And you're looking at April of 2023 and we have over 500 clients and kids in all of our programming. It's
incredible.
It's surreal, man. I'm telling you, it's incredible. I say those things and I'm like, am I talking about me? I don't know. It's amazing.
Yeah. Before Brendan hits you with another question, like that's ways where we see eye to eye, right? For More Than Different, right? We have kind of a couple core values, right? Appreciate, celebrate, and elevate.
Yep.
And right, just going through the grinds and just right, you need to go through that grind and that struggle in order to have this epiphany of like, all right, hold on, let me take a step back, right? I've already kind of indulged in a dream of mine, and right, it's paid off, but now let me take a step back. Now let me care for something else that's another dream of mine, like my family. And then
exactly,
right, it's the idea of like the appreciation stage, right? Appreciate that grind and the struggle that you went through that got you to that stage. right, then appreciating what you have around you, your support system, your family, your loved ones, and then obviously like the constant idea of elevation, right? Waking up at 5 a.m., right? And all of that, right? Subconsciously, it actually, paid off in the long run of starting your own business, but you had no idea that that was going to happen.
Right.
Right. You know
Correct.
what I mean? So, it all comes together kind of, without even thinking about it, the idea of like appreciating, celebrating kind of a process setting.
Right.
And then like celebrating some of those small wins. Like, it's definitely tough to take money from a family member when you're like I can do this for free on the side, but
yeah,
at the same time,
she's my goddaughter. I'm like, dude, I love her. I will literally do anything for her. My brother's like, nope.
Oh,
like,
you're telling me,
you're
man.
take yourself serious.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just handing out like free hoodies, like, for someone that you're really close with, it's like, it's like you're handing out, baked goods. It's like you get one, you get one. But the family member that's like, oh yeah, I'll pay you 3 times as much as it's worth just because I love you. I'm like, hey, you know what? Sure, whatever. I won't say no.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what's funny though is you talk about core values, and I'm a big core value guy. I'm a big principle and morally driven guy, and I see it in everything you guys do. I mean, like every post you guys, like the captions in your Instagram posts, I'm like, dude, there's love and like purpose behind everything you guys write. It's just everything you write. It's not shocking that you have your core values, and it all correlates, man. And you can tell, and you guys are growing as well. But for us, right? Like when I was coaching college, like I always instilled core values in my guys.
Yeah.
And I was like, you think you're here to win basketball games? You're not here to win basketball games. You're here to become better people. You're here to get a degree, and you're here to understand that if we work together, we can accomplish more than if we all have the same jersey on and work alone. And I think relationships for us, especially Gold Standard, like relationships are just so important. It's our first core value. Is like, how are you going to hold people accountable that you love, right? Yeah. And I have people who work for Gold Standard, coaches, trainers, and they're some of the best in the business. Jay DeTurley's one of the best. I recruited him to Tufts, and we have just such a great relationship. And he wants to do more, and he wants to become, the best version of what he can be. But I'm not just going to be a yes man, right? Like I got to tell him the mistakes that I see him making that I made.
Yeah.
And if I'm not 100% truthful with him at all times, what does that relationship become? I don't want to hurt his feelings, so I'm just like, yeah, man, you're doing it good, and then he continues to not do it the right way. But the thing about the relationship is what I learned during coaching college basketball is like I'm not above the core values. He tells me when I'm messing up. All my coaches do. And to be able to have that relationship similar to your elevate. I mean, like you want to help each other, right? So you got to tell each other the truth, man. And I appreciate that you guys have some core values because you can tell that you guys just, it's a purpose-driven company.
No, I appreciate that. Definitely trying to, when you do something that is kind of an extension of how for Colin and I, how we try to live our lives and how we hope to inspire other people to live their lives, and hopefully our message can resonate with them and be like a lifestyle approach. That's what makes it so worth doing, because like you've said, through all this, there's so many ups and downs. There's so many moments where you're like, fuck, like this isn't paying off, or it doesn't feel like instant gratification. A lot of it is delayed, but when you're doing really is authentic and real to you, it makes it worth it. And so that leads me to the question: what to you is the most rewarding part of what you're doing with Gold Standard?
The breakthroughs, whether that's for our coaches, our athletes, myself. When you put time into something and it takes you to a level and you break through to a level that you never thought would ever be possible. That's the most rewarding thing.
Yeah.
I remember in college, man, I was an English major, and people be like, "Oh man, you're a hooper. Like you should major in business." And I'm like, "No, math." I'm like, I want to avoid that at all costs. Like I'm not a businessman. And here I am all these years later.
Exactly.
I got, I'm running a business. I'm actually starting another one, but like it's when you have the breakthrough of like, man, I can actually do this. Like I'm sure you two had it at some point. You're like, no, I'm going to play college basketball, or I'm going to, play at a very high level. Or when you put in all this work and you break through, and then you take what you learn there and you go share that with the seventh grader who got cut and then they make the A team, or the seventh grader who had no confidence and then they're hanging with the really talented kids. It's a major reward. But there's also been the kids who are like really good at basketball, but they suffer with like anxiety problems.
Yeah.
And when you take the things that you struggle with in your life, like I've struggled with in my life, and you're like, hey, this is the best way to navigate it. And you see those people come out of their shell and they improve in basketball, they improve in life. Their worries are kind of, minimized. And you get those calls, you get those emails, man. Like, I think of some people who are really close to me that I've had conversations with their parents where their parents are almost in tears. Like, thank you so much for what you've done for my child. It's something that I couldn't do because he needed another voice. And that's why we do it. And it's so funny because it has so little to do with basketball, man.
Yeah.
It's all life. You guys know that.
Yeah.
Agreed. It like, I mean, just from my perspective and just looking at like younger kids getting those types of, I mean, obviously I don't have a gold standard business of my own, but, obviously I've, worked out a local kid from down the street. Right. But just like, even just seeing a kid like after, 20 reps finally figure out the one move he's been practicing, like just the look on his face and the parents at the end, like, yeah, you can't substitute it for anything. Cause I mean, it's stuff that like, it may not be the one move that they'll remember for the rest of life, but
right.
They'll take bigger jumps in general with just kind of lessons that they're going to learn subconsciously. Right. They may not apply it right away, but
the habits that they're picking up.
Exactly.
And let's double back to what BMAC just said, man. Like, we live in a world of such instant gratification. Everybody wants what they want right now. And that's not how life works, man. Like,
no.
You guys know free hoodies, right? Like you guys have been grinding. I remember when I was doing solo and group lessons, fall of 2020, working 30 hours in the classroom and then another 20 hours training with two like still kind of really young kids. When you teach the habits, the results take care of themselves.
Yeah.
That's so. And Brennan, I think Brennan was probably gonna ask this question. So sorry if I'm stealing your thunder, but on the habits,
older brother privileges.
Yeah, while we're on the habits train, what are your, what do you think are your best habits
and worst habits?
Oh yeah, the work ethic. I was never blessed with tremendous athletic ability. So I always had to work for it. I remember like, this is a funny story. My senior year, I'm looking around, I'm like, hey, we're in college. I'm like, we're pretty good. Like we're going to be good this year. And, I spent so much time in the weight room, working on my legs, working on my calves, working on my vertical, keeping them strong, being able to play defense. And we're at the first day of practice and we're doing 11-man break, which is a 3-on-2 drill. And my point guard comes down with one of the freshmen, and the freshman's on the right side. My point guard's in the middle, He does an over the top cross over his left hand, and then he gives a no look alley-oop to the right. And Justin Parker catches it on the right side. He's a freshman, 18 years old, true freshman. Catches it, brings it over his head, dunks it, hangs on the rim, points to Lance, our point guard, comes down and like sprints over. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, you must spend so much time working on your vertical. And he looks at me and goes, no, why?
Yeah, fuck those guys.
I know. I'm like, Parker, come on, man. I could work for years and not have that ability.
Yeah. Throw me a bone. Lie to my face. Just tell me you've been working your whole life for that.
Exactly.
Right? Make me feel
so you know, I didn't have the natural athletic ability, so I always had to work. You know, and you mix that, it's a gift and a curse. I'll be honest. You know, I have OCD. I'm obsessive compulsive. So, you know, when it comes to working, like, you know, my wife says it all the time. She's like, dude, you got to have balance. Like you're so into it. And, you know, I feel like that's part of why, you know, we can be successful and we can be good coaches. But like, I'll never outright be like, oh yeah, like Gold Standard is super successful and I'm a great coach. Like I'll never do that. I never feel that way. And I just focus on the work and the work habits and, you know, what I'm doing with my day to day and, you know, how I'm just kind of like pushing it all in, you know? So I think that my best, my best habit is certainly my work ethic and the ability to take ideas and execute them. You know, my worst habit is having balance. It's really, really tough for me to be like, okay, I'm shutting the laptop for today. And, you know, I'm not going to create any more emails or programs or do any more research or look at any more, you know, curriculums or anything like that. So yeah, that's my answer.
I like that. That's a great segue because another thing we've alluded to on this podcast and our brand is kind of in a, like where we're at. Colin and I have been doing this for coming on 4 years now. And similar to when you initially started up Gold Standard, it's like it's a side gig and it's side hustle. And so you're trying to kind of slowly grow and also maintain. And you're trying to, like Colin at this point when we started, you had 2 more years of college hoops, 3 more years of college. I was still in high school. I'm trying to get recruited. So you got all these things going on. And this idea you just mentioned is balance. And it's like, you want to find balance, but then the harsh reality is that if you want something to excel and really grow, you can't have balance in everything. And it's something that for us, we're trying to figure out. And it seems like you've really
the opposite end.
you've started to take that step into really investing kind of it all into Gold Standard and look, the results are clear. You're growing at a rapid pace, and at some point Colin and I are, you know, we really got to do that and take that kind of risk. But yeah, you can't have balance in everything.
It's a calculated risk, you know, and that's why, you know, obviously the three of us have known each other for a very long time, but you know, I love how great your perspective is at such a young age. You know, B-Mac, what are you, 20?
Yeah.
And Colin, how old are you?
23.
23. Like you guys are super young, right? I'm 38. I turned 38 in January. And
you look 25.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's really nice of you guys. That's great. I pay them a lot of money for everyone who's listening. I pay them a lot of money for them to say that. But you know, when you're 38 and you know you've been a middle school teacher for 13 years, and I've loved those moments of my life. But there's also part of me that's like, you know, put it in perspective, man. Like if you don't do this now, you're going to look back when you're 48 and be like, it's too late to do it. And I should have done it.
Yeah.
And you know, you hear it all the time. It's such a cliche. It's like, oh, you know, you bet on yourself. But I don't think of it that way. I just think of it as show up every day and work harder than everybody else.
More work.
Yeah, more work, please. You got it right.
Yeah.
So, and that's something that I learned at Lesley, right? We were one of two teams who didn't have a full-time coaching staff. We were one of three teams who, didn't have our own gym. And you look at the two other teams, they weren't top of the league, and neither was Lesley. So I said, how do we find an advantage, and how do we, find some success and get out of the basement of the league and make the playoffs, despite our lack of resources. And, we always said it to each other, man, like if we invest in each other, and we use, we find success in spite of our lack of resources instead of finding an excuse because of our lack of resources. We were just it would all work out. It would all work out. And that's kind of the lesson I take with me. I still have that chip on my shoulder. The we don't have a gym, or we don't have, this, or we don't have that. It's not an embarrassment of riches over here, man. It's just good old fashioned hard work and caring about people, and trying to figure it out one step at a time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, right? I mean, owner of any business, just any logical, successful plan is all about like resource efficiency, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't even need to have right now. You
Right.
don't even need to have that many resources to get a team together, right? All you need to
Right.
do, hey, let's get our conditioning in outside. Let's,
Yep.
Obviously, in the winter season's a little tough, but yeah, I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, but still, like resource efficiencies. Yeah, and Brendan's gonna laugh at this. I say it's the name of the game, but
He says that,
uh, so one thing I want to take a quick step back on, and I saw it actually. I think I saw it in one of your lines on LinkedIn, and obviously now you have a skills development program, right? So primarily, assuming right, the ball's in the kids' hands a lot. So you mentioned that you are, and I forget whether it's one of either if it was in Lesley or if it was a Rivier description for coaching, but you said defensive specialist.
I saw
Oh yeah.
So
Yep.
do you think so now are you still classifying yourself as more of a defensive coach or an offensive minded coach?
Well, let's go back to the talk about balance. I think, somebody wrote that for me. I don't consider myself a defensive specialist, but I will say to take Riv and be a top 30 defensive team in Division III, it was not easy, but man, did those guys lock up, man. I think our average, I think we gave up like 59 points a game or like 57 points a game or something like that. It was crazy. But
really,
yeah, it was really good. But when it comes to skills training, everybody has a ball in their hands, man.
yeah, of course.
Everybody has a ball in their hands. We do a fair share of the stuff with the ball in their hands, but we try to help them like, hey, let's give up the ball and let's see what we can do offensively off the ball. Can you read screens? Can you read a defender? Do you know what cuts you want to make? Whether it's a back door or, if you're coming off a screen, are you going to curl it? Are you going to slip it? Are you going to fade it? Are you coming off straight up? Are you setting your guy up? Is there a little bit of deception to it? So my offensive philosophy has definitely expanded exponentially. There's no doubt about it. But with our programming, it's also made it a lot more feasible to kind of put some defensive stuff in there. So our skills academy is it's all offensive skills 100% of the time, right?
Yeah,
Whether it's off ball screens or ball screens or breakdown dribbles downhill, pull up, jump shot, whatever it might be. Our development league allows us the opportunity to, get those defensive principles in there, right? So, our development league, for example, is an hour and a half, and 45 minutes of the 90 minutes is a certain skill each week. So the first week is backdoor cuts and fills up the perimeter, right? So if you have somebody penetrating, you go over the drill, whatever, and then we make it live and we show how to defend those things, right? So it's almost like, okay, now you know how to defend them, but the offensive player still holds the advantage because they get to choose where they get to go and they get to read the defender and the teammate. Then everybody get a quick water break, and then the last 40-ish minutes we'll play our 3-on-3 games. So yeah, it's interesting because I've learned so much, man. Like I would always say this when I was a college coach, I'd be like, yeah, I don't know much about X and O's. My assistants took care of that. I was a motivator, a leader, and a creator of a team and a program. And it's like with all of us together, we were pretty good.
Yeah, Cochran was the X's and O's guy.
Guy could go, man. I was like, he's like, hey, what do you think of this play? I'm like, yeah, dude, what? Just go show it to them. Sure, it's great.
Yeah, exactly. One thing, and Brent, you want to ask a question? I got a nice one, but
you go ahead.
I've been kind of just talking over you this whole time, so that's on me. What is right for people who are trying to kind of launch their own and take a risk, right? Maybe quit their full-time job and invest in their self, right? What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone that's saying, hey, I got this business idea. I want to take this on. I have faith in myself, but I have a nice, steady paying full-time job. But, if I need to take this seriously, I need to go in, 2 feet in and quit my full-time job. What's some advice you would give someone thinking that?
Yeah, I think especially if you have a full-time job that's a comfortable salary or financially you're comfortable or you're in a good spot, I would say that, if they're already under the understanding of like they have to go all in, that's a huge part of it. So if somebody's like, hey, I got to go all in, this isn't going to be a side hustle anymore. I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to put everything I have invested in this new business. The biggest thing that I learned is you can't compare yourself to others. If you compare yourself to others this entire time, like it's going to be nothing but misery. Everybody starts from the ground floor.
Yeah.
In a social media world, everybody starts at one follower, man. And it's probably your other account, but when I just started, I remember looking through, I was like, I'm going to follow every trainer. I'm going to learn so much. And I would follow these trainers and I would see what they were doing. And, it was the famous ones, but it was also some who aren't as famous, but they just have really good stuff. And they've already built it and they already have their following and they have their clients and they just got really, really good stuff. And I remember being like, I'm not there. I'm never going to get there. These guys are way better than me. I can't. And when you compare yourself at that point, it's debilitating. It really is. Yeah, but you're gonna have to navigate that, man. So like, don't compare yourself. And I learned that very, very soon, very quickly into this whole thing. I said, I'm not going to compare myself. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wake up every day, and I'm going to work towards building the quality of our instruction to be superior every day and put everything I have into that. And I might not be where I want to be after a day, after a month, after a year. I might not ever be where I want to be because it's going to be a continuous journey of putting everything into what we have. And it's our high quality instruction. And like the trainer in Iowa who has whatever, like that has no bearing on me. Man, that's not helping me, but it can hurt me, if I look at it in the wrong way. But I would say anybody starting out, man, don't compare yourself to others. Don't compare yourself to others. Just do what you have to. Work your ass off, man. Oh man, just work. Don't complain. Things aren't going your way. This, that. There's so many excuses. Win anyways, man. Find a way, work your ass off, and don't compare yourself to others. That's my advice.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Holy shit.
I'm on my note. I have my note.
You got me ready to run through a wall right now.
Let's go. Me too. I'm jazzed up. 8 o'clock is usually my bedtime. I'm like, let's go.
All right, so let's give you a chance to give a little free gold standard advertisement here. I'm a parent and
Yep.
I'm in all these camps. I'm trying to send my kid or she's really into basketball. He's taking it serious, but he needs some skill development. I'm the parent. I don't know what I'm doing, so I need
Yeah.
some. Why should I send my kid to Gold Standard Hoops?
It's a really good one. You know, if you want to go and have fun, you know, we're the spot for you. If you want to go and get better, we're the spot for you. If you want basketball to be a part of your life where you want to get to the elite level, we're the spot for you for a couple of reasons. Number one, we can differentiate instruction, right? We can help you with basketball, but all we're really doing is teaching you life, right? So, you know, the adversities that you're going to find in basketball, we're going to compare those. You know, we'll draw parallels. You know, we're going to help your kid outside of just dribble, pass, shoot, right? And we're going to make them understand that whatever they want from this game, we're going to give it to them. You know, you might see some other programs. We can't really speak to those. I just know that when you come here, nobody's going to work harder for your kid. We have a bunch of, you know, really well experienced coaches. We have our structure, our programming all written out in the form of curriculums that all of our coaches have and studied. But what sets us apart is our work ethic, and we're going to differentiate instruction for your kid. You know, whether they take it seriously or just want to have fun and get better. And yeah, you know, no one's going to work harder for your child. That's a fact.
I'm sold.
That's what I would say. Yeah. Sign them up.
Sign them. Send me the link.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Goldstandardhoops.com.
And we'll go one more question about Gold Standard, then we'll go into a little rapid ending.
Sure.
Hitters, but
Sure.
define success for Gold Standard Hoops 5 years from now, or for you, just success for you. It doesn't even necessarily, obviously, Gold Standard is an integral part of your life, so those go hand in hand.
Yep.
But what does success look like for you 5 years from now?
Success for me and for success for Gold Standard is in 5 years is if athletes, boys and girls who have come through the program, who have learned from us, who have you know, developed skill with us, both in basketball and life. There's two things. Number one, if they want to come back and work with us and coach with us and teach the next generation of youth, that's success. Number two, if that's not their cup of tea, if they don't want to coach, but instead they're using what we taught them to be successful in their lives, and they're, you know, if they have families, they're great family people, they're great workers, they're great, you know, people with strong relationships and friendships. That's what I view as success. You know, I think people who come through this program, if they want to give back, or if they're using what we taught them to help themselves and be better people, then we've done everything that we've set out to do. You know, our mission is teaching life through basketball. That's what we're doing. That's what we're all about. And, you know, in 5 years, that's not going to change, you know, but if we had that happen, if kids were like, hey, you know, I used to struggle, but I just crushed this interview because of what you taught me during our lesson, we're successful. You know, I'll be able to go to sleep at night knowing that, you know, we helped people.
Wow, that's powerful. I love that. Simple too. The rest take care of itself. There's no I think it's you're destined to just continue to grow and expand, but just to have such a simple vision for what success is, I think is obviously just gonna guide you and stay true to what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's
I have a question for you guys. Sorry.
let's hear it. Let's
Colin.
hear it.
No, Colin, I want to hear what you're going to say first. Go
No,
ahead.
I was gonna say it's powerful because, you know, if you ask a lot of people that question, you know, you'll get a monetary or financial answer back in response, or
Mhm.
something, you know, something materialistic that you can just, you know, I want to, you know, be able to, you know, turn to a $1 million business and buy, you know, my family a mansion on the lake. You know what I mean? And to
Right.
hear kind of a response, kind of more people driven, and the idea of having like a players program, which obviously kind of in my time at WPI has, you know, the huge stress on what the program was about. But yeah, the idea that like the gratification and the success looks like, you're seeing other people succeed. You know, the idea that we started More Than Different, you know, obviously it's a little different selling clothing to people, but it's kind of the message of, you know, being able to have people kind of, you know, fulfill themselves with
Right.
like giving out this message like, hey,
Right.
you are more than different. Like embrace that shit and live it up
You,
to the fullest. You know what I mean?
dude, you just said it. You just said it. They're not wearing your sweatshirts. They're wearing your message.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it,
So,
man. You
yeah.
guys
So
got it. All right,
yeah.
ready? You ready for my question?
Yeah.
Where did I get this one? 5 years from now, you're going to be 28, you're going to be 25. So what is success for More Than Different?
Colin,
That's
you
a good
go
question.
ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, that's something that I think Brent and we've had this conversation off and on for a while now. There's a bunch of different ways in which success can work out. You know, obviously, I think for us, managing this is something that's full time. I'm working full time right now at at just a, you know, software startup in Boston, and at times it consumes weeks of time,
Yeah.
right? And so the idea of balance is like our balance is skewed in the opposite direction. Like, you know, sometimes we don't have time, or you know,
Yeah.
I'd like to think that there's always, you know, time, but being able to expand from kind of have a good footing on the ground to be able to kind of take this full time and be able to hire people to let, you know, essentially pay them to help put their family, you know, food on the table for their families.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time, be able to expand past clothing and kind of, you know, build a community feel around More Than Different, right? We're trying to build a podcast platform. We're trying to build blogging. We're trying to build kind of a community setting to bring people together, right? So whether it's, you know, building a community center 10 years down the road, you know, that might be it, like, you know, kind of like a Boys and Girls Club. But
Yeah,
it's
that's awesome.
Yeah, Brendan might have a different answer. You know, that's kind of the struggle that we're in right now, right? Our next step, we're trying to figure out how to balance our time, right, in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll get more aligned. But Brendan, what do you think 5 years down the road?
Yeah, drawing off even what Coach G, what you said, and how you approach that answer, I think on a simplified level, 5 years from now, absolutely, for me, I'm all in on it, working full time. That's the main priority, and keeping the main thing. But as far as where I hope More Than Different is at, it is, as far as clothing, I hope for it to be ubiquitous. As far as the message, I hope that we can continue to promulgate the mission and inspire people to embody and embrace what being More Than Different's about. To me and to us, it's a lifestyle paradigm. It's about seeing more in yourself so that you see more in others. It's about celebrating the success of others, that they celebrate your success. It's about relentlessly trying to maximize your potential. And that is a very ambiguous thing, because everyone's lifestyle and their interests and their endeavors are different. And for us, and 5 years from now, I hope that people can really, whether it is buying a hoodie or whether it's really continuing to grow our podcast, our blog, having different, having people on board, hiring them that have different talents so that we can continue to reach people with this mission and just to inspire and hope people can embody this and try to see more in themselves. Because I really do believe that when you see more in yourself, when you look for more in yourself, naturally you see more in others. And that's the part of celebrating people's differences and their authenticity. But until you embrace your own authenticity, you won't embrace it in others because you're not seeing the most in yourself. So again, not a monetary number or a Instagram following count, but more so just
right.
to continue to reach more people with this message. I think we have a solid basis, but to me, I hope we can expand out of Massachusetts and kind of start to build a bit of an establishment and some notoriety behind what it really is about, and really establishing it not just as a clothing brand, because some people might just see the hoodies or buy a hoodie and think that we're doing it to make money. Like, look, all businesses are built to make money. It's the first thing my business professor told me this year. But if you're just doing it to make money, you're not going to distinguish yourself from the million other clothing brands or other companies that are trying to make money. It needs to be a transformative relationship rather than transactional. And I, with our following, I want to really hope that we can inspire people and they can gain something from listening to our content, and then they're more enticed to want to support the brand, and in turn probably make some more money. So I think it's
even in the name, right, more than different, it's just, to me, it just screams like, about just embracing what society, what whoever might see as flaws, and embracing that and just being like, no, man, like that's my strength. And that's my strong suit. I think the name is just so powerful. I've been meaning to tell you guys this for a while, but when you say something like, oh, it's more than different, because like no two people are the same, and it's just, teaching fifth grade science gives you really good perspective, right? Because I've said this before, but like, we're just a bunch of living beings on a rock floating in space, circling around a ball of fire. And it's like, if you want everybody to be like the same, like there's no way, man, there's no way. And I think you guys embody that. I think you embrace that. I think your core values are so evident by the way you approach it, and the message that you're, putting out there is a great one, and, BMAC, when you came out to me, like, hey, I want to get you on the pod, I was like, dude, let's do it tonight. Like that was 2 weeks ago. I'm like, bro, I'm ready. But man, you guys are doing some incredible stuff. And as a former coach of you guys, like, and seeing you guys grow up, man, I'm really proud. I'm really proud of both of you. You guys are doing great stuff, man.
Thanks.
Appreciate that. That means a lot.
Lucky to have you in our corner, and lucky to have been coached by you, and at this point call you like a friend and definitely a mentor, someone I admire. But let's get into our final little section, some quick hitters, and then we'll get you out. Lightning round. So C-Mac, you take the our staple question.
Why don't you take that?
All right, he doesn't know what I'm talking about. All right,
I think I do, but I think you're.
Let's fire him off. I got a couple for you here.
Okay.
If I were to find you in a bookstore, what section would I find you in?
Self-help, for sure. My favorite books: Grit, Mindset, by Carol Dweck; Grit by Angela Duckworth, who is just brilliant. My favorite book of all time, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. The Energy Bus, To Be a Runner. I mean, these are books that, I just can't get enough of them. I devour books like that. Relentless. You got to the Grover, did you? Yeah. Yep. It's funny too, because me and BMAC were talking a while back, like I'm like, BMAC, talking about books or whatever. I'm like, dude, I have in my notebook, I have like 3 pages of books, videos, blogs, podcasts, all stuff that's, and it all centers around just helping yourself improve and being the best version of yourself. I can't get enough of that stuff.
Yeah, it's all about, like we said, learning it and applying it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's useless. All right. If someone gives you the aux cord while you're in the gym,
Yeah, that was my question.
We could either go top 3 songs or we go top 3 albums. Either way you want to.
Oh man. We used to play music during our practices in college. The the first song that I would go to is a song from the Rocky IV soundtrack. It's called "No Easy Way Out" by Robert Tepper. It is electric, and it is so motivational. There's a line in that song. Let me think of it. He says, hold on, I got to go through it now. It's God. Let's look up the lyrics.
Yeah, no rush.
Rocky IV. I don't even know if I've gotten to that.
Oh, dude, it's like I grew up with that stuff, so it might be a little different for me. But the message of the song is like, hey, there's no shortcuts, man. There's no easy way out, right? Like there's always going to be a difficult road. So, hold on, let me find this one line. Here we go. So he goes, second verse, he says, I feel like I'm a stranger in a no-name town. I see only angry faces, afraid that could be you and me. Thinking about what might have been, thinking about what used to be. And, I remember playing that for our Lesley team, and we were on the verge of breaking the record for the most wins in a single season in school history.
Yeah.
And I said, just think about that line for a second, man. Like, see only angry faces, afraid that could be you and me, thinking about what might have been, thinking about what used to be. Are we going to be a might have been? Are we going to be angry at the end of this? Or are we going to control our destiny and go break this record? And it wasn't even about the record at that point. It was continuing to invest in each other, continuing to do the right things and have the right habits and focus on the right things. And that's a special one for me. We used to play that during our Jayhawk drill. And it's just so funny. Like, the kids you guys are so young. And I'm like playing music from the Rocky IV soundtrack, which I think came out in like 1984 or something like that. So that would definitely be one of them. Another just great beat, great song is "It Ain't Hard to Tell" by Nas. One of my favorite albums of all time, Illmatic, one of the best albums of all time. And then a third song, man. Jeez, it's tough. We're in the gym. We're hooping. You know what? I got one right here. Hold on. Go to the old practice playlist here, guys.
You got to have one of those. Everyone has one of those.
Oh yeah. Nas is actually on here. That's funny.
We got Rocky. We got Nas.
Dude, one of the best songs, in my opinion, of all time. Just a really great song. These are all throwbacks, obviously, but if you've ever heard the song "Tennessee" by Arrested Development, it is just terrific, man. Just like great beats, great vibes, great message. Just all of it is terrific.
Tennessee by Arrested Development.
Yeah.
Book it.
Yep. It's a playlist that's all over the place, but it gets the message across.
Oh, yeah.
What about you guys? I want to hear, like, we got some, like, I don't even know. Lil Yachty or something? Who do you got? Who do you got?
I'll tell you what. Prep school didn't change me too much. I evolved in great ways. It didn't. I didn't
Of course.
change too much. But one thing it did do is I became a huge country music fan.
Oh
Huge.
man.
I came in. I
Hey,
was
Mac, you listen to country music in the gym?
no, not necessarily in the gym.
All right. Okay. Okay. All right.
Fair enough. Yeah, not in the gym, but I think I could though. I'm heading to Nobles tomorrow morning to get a workout in, and I don't
Nice.
know. We'll see what my impulse is. I would say, I mean Drake. Any particular song?
The one song that I would throw on. Probably, I could probably throw it on the speakers in the gym. But I definitely would put on my headphones before a game and we've put on in one of our podcasts is, I think it's called, what's it called? It's a Nipsey Hussle song.
Face the
Oh,
Yeah, Face the World. It's
dude.
from the Crenshaw album, and it just talk about like listening to.
How did I forget about Nipsey? Oh, dude, the
Yeah.
marathon.
The marathon.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that wasn't that's like kind of the vision and growing motivation from more than different. Like, I mean, for the last 2 Christmases, I think I bought Brendan and I like 12 marathon shirts combined. Like, yeah, like in every color. But so I mean, and he's kind of had because he had the same type of vision and work ethic, of course.
That dude was special.
Yeah,
he was special, and I think a lot of people identify with him because I don't think like talent wise, I don't think he was the most naturally talented rapper. The dude just worked.
Exactly.
Oh, he just worked. It was and like he was awesome.
Yeah,
That's a really good call.
Yeah. So I mean,
I
go down. Yeah, I could go down the whole Crenshaw album and just put that thing on repeat, and then obviously, the marathon album's obviously a classic.
Yeah.
I feel like such an idiot now for saying country music.
Country. B-Mac, I'll say this. I don't know if you listen to Chris Stapleton, but that dude is unreal. What a talent. Oh, that guy's unreal.
He can go.
So good.
Brennan picked me up I picked me up from the train today, and Michael Jackson was blaring through the speakers. He can't make this up. It was unbelievable.
I'm all over the place. Man in the Mirror. Come on.
Oh, dude.
Talk about something.
So good. It's so good.
And then we went to country from there. It was insane.
And then we went over to old Luke Combs. Yeah.
You gotta check all the boxes, fellas.
No,
you
got to.
You guys understand it.
All right, two final questions. Get you out of here. I actually have to ask this because Mike Loughnane, your guy, my guy, the best, just the best. He wanted me to ask. He want to put you on the spot. Who is the best Middlesex Magic team? You better say mine.
I'm going on record here. Not Mike Loughnane's team. No, I'm just kidding. Man, that is such a tough question, and he asks me it all the time. Dude, you can't answer it. I don't know. Like, I think about dude. I think about back to like Thomas Shaughnessy's team and Pat Harding and Tommy O'Neill and Tyler Kolek, and like as these guys kind of came up, the teams got better. But like, dude, just think about your team with like you and Justin Conley and Jacob Ashworth and Fonts, like,
and the other
you guys were so good. Like Brendan Kolek just had like an incredible career at Division II Franklin Pierce.
Yeah.
Like, is that like a B team? Like, there have just been so many good Middlesex Magic teams. And it just keeps getting better. I will say this. I think that, each team and this is what you look for. Each team that Mike and I and Billy have coached together, you've seen growth throughout the season. But as it pertains to last year's UAA team, Locknane and everybody, and JP and Joe and Low, like the whole team, man, to have it be our first year on Under Armour and go out in the spring and win it with the 17s and win it with the 16s. It's pretty special. It's pretty special. But so it's easy for me to be like, oh, it's the best team. But then I think about years back when Tommy and Tyler and Cole Prout Smith and Mogan. We go down to the prom event in Orlando. We beat the EYBL Wrens and we beat the 3 SSB Wildcats and Oscar Shibwe is on that team and we're like everyone's like, oh, they're the sneaker killers, right? So it's it's such a hard question to answer. I don't know the answer to it. I really don't know, man.
Okay.
Like,
you need to mention my team. That's neither here.
Yeah, dude, that's another thing is like, B-Mac, your team was insane. Like,
yeah, we were nice.
You think the year before last year with UA, like Dom and Josh and Baldwin and like you, Keegan, like it was just batch. Like, oh,
Trent.
Oh my God, Trent has the biggest hands and the longest arms I've ever seen in my life, and like just dunks effortlessly. And like he's your sixth man. Like, oh my God, it's crazy. I mean, it's tough. But I will say in terms of talent, there's so many. In terms of the right pieces and the right team. The team with Tyler and Tommy and Cole, like that team sticks out. Just because, like, I'm not sure if everybody else had low expectations for us, and we exceeded everybody else's expectations. But yeah, every group is tight knit. That group was tight knit, and we did some real groundbreaking stuff. But B-Mac, you look at your team, and you go to Dallas and you beat 2 EYBL teams, right? So.
Program and a lot of it. Hey, as Crotty always loves to subtly say, although he actually doesn't mean it, but he knows he means it. It's in the coaching, and he isn't lying.
Yeah,
the amount of teams in my time with the Magic that we beat, that if you put our coaching staff on the other team would probably smoke us.
Yeah,
is countless. But the especially in AAU setting, coaching can make a big difference, but the talent has only increased. It's pretty remarkable, having been a part of it since 5th grade, to just see like how much it's grown and how established and respected it is now. It makes me so happy because when you're young, it's like no one knows shit and they think, oh, sneaker team or whatever. And I was always like, we got something going on over here, and
something brewing.
Something, and it's brewed now. It's
percolating. But going to the coaching thing though, like, man, Mike's one of my closest friends. Don't get me wrong, but like, he is a brilliant coach, dude. And I don't think people realize how much time he puts in and how much he cares. And on top of all that, like, the dude is just brilliant when it comes to in-game coaching. It's crazy. The adjustments and what he sees, the way he sees the game. Sometimes he'll be like, oh, dude, you see that? And I'm like, yeah. Sure did.
Exactly.
All right, on the last question on the theme of basketball, who you got coming out of the East? Who you got coming out of the West? I'll make you pick a champion. Although you can pick a champion.
Yeah, look. I would be embarrassed with 2 dudes from Arlington if I said any team besides the Bucks are coming out of the East, right? I mean, like, come on, we got some home cooking here, and if we really wanted to get into it, I went to Arlington Catholic, so we got to show some support for our boy. I think the Bucks, like, I think they're coming out of the East for sure. I just think that, they're at a different level. And as Chris Middleton kind of rounds into form here, I also think that Brook Lopez has had an incredible season for them. Man, he's really emerged and has become a threat. So I think it's going to be them. I do. Coming out of the West, I was talking about this last night because my men's league team just won a championship. Whatever, we don't have to talk about that. So we're talking about it, man. Like in the first round, dude, like Phoenix is going to play Golden State.
Yeah, it's mayhem in the West.
What are we talking about? That should be the Western Conference Final. What are we talking about?
Definitely.
Memphis might overtake Denver. Like it's a really hard call. I want to say Denver. I do, but there's no shot.
Yeah, no, good.
Phoenix is coming out of the West. I think it's going to be a rematch. I think it's going to be
wow.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Milwaukee,
Rematch.
Phoenix. And I think like Phoenix is going to go into it. We got KD now, and Booker, and Chris Paul, and I think the Bucks are going to stomp them. I think they're going to win 4-1. And then that's it. I got the Bucks winning it.
Wow.
Send this to our boy Patty.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
Yeah.
They'll love this. He might send me a couple more pairs of Nikes for this.
Yeah, talking about getting paid to say something. Holy
Yeah,
right?
Seriously. So Pat, if you're listening,
yeah. Right.
Yeah.
No, shout out to Pat. Shout out to Pat. We were watching him play the Celtics. I caught the tail end of it, and
yeah.
well, it's always
They
good.
have a great year.
I work with the machine shop out in Wisconsin, and the guy at 9 a.m. had his Fear the Deer T-shirt on. So he couldn't believe that from the same Pat. That was hilarious.
It's so funny how it all works. We had a sports psychologist in my second to last year at Lesley, and she was from just north of Milwaukee. And when Pat and I got together this summer for some workouts and with Tyler, I think I posted on Instagram or something, and she saw it and she was like, "How do you know those people?" Right? Because like Marquette and
Exactly.
and obviously the Bucks, and that's what they have out there, man. They love hoop, and they got Marquette and they got the Bucks, and both of those teams are fantastic.
They are
right now. So yeah, so I get the Bucks beating the Suns in the finals.
all right. There it is. We'll have the receipts right here for June.
Yeah.
Late mid-June.
Yeah.
Mid-June.
Yeah.
If we're posting this clip saying Coach G
Sure.
is buoyant. But
And if I'm wrong, burn the tape. Just
don't worry. We wouldn't
destroy the evidence.
Yeah.
because if it ain't the Bucks, it's the C's. So
Yep. Is that who do you guys have?
I'm gonna go C's Warriors. I'm gonna go finals rematch. Warriors coming out of the West. You got Wiggins back. They got their mojo back.
Let's go.
They've been cruising through the season. It's been cruise control, lost a whole lot of games. They're one of those teams you hear a lot. They can turn that switch on, and they only got the gap is closing for them, and then they've done a whole lot. But I think one more, they got it in the tank. That's why I'm hoping it shapes out where we don't get a Phoenix Golden State first round, because they're two of the better teams, and one of them having to be out right away would suck. I'm hoping that Golden State ends up sliding into the 6 and they can get Sacramento first round, then Memphis second, and then you get Phoenix in the Western Conference Final. That's what I got.
Yeah, that would be terrific. So you get the C's over the Warriors. Colin, what do you got, man?
I think I had the C's, and then I want it to be the Nugs. I do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I do.
Yeah.
Like it'd be kind of legend, but it's you almost just can't do it. You know what I mean? Because this tape, this is recorded. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, here's the funny thing about it. Have you ever seen a 1 seed who is going to have most likely a 3 in a row time MVP, and like they've been in the 1 seed cruise control the entire year, and you're like, yeah, no, they're not making it to the finals.
Yeah, it's insane.
Like, what are we talking about?
It is insane. Although they are better this year now that they have Aaron Gordon, like they have way better pieces around him now. They finally has Jamal Murray back and healthy, so they're more of a problem than they were.
Yep.
Yeah, Michael Porter established.
Yeah.
No, they're going to be tough, but the Clippers are going to be. It's going to be a bloodbath in the West.
Yeah, I said that last night too. I go, I'm going to watch every game of every series.
100%. It's like going to be must TV.
Yeah, there's not going to be a bad series. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Nugs Celts.
Wow.
I'm just going to go ahead and say it. No one can guard the Joker in the West.
No, that's very true.
But also, Joker can't guard many people.
They're just gonna go ball screen.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Now, the defense is the flaw. That's why they got Aaron Gordon though.
Yep.
Yeah,
you're not wrong.
Those will find out.
Hot take. But
we will see. So we got 3 different finals. Now watch it be like, I don't even know, the Kings and like whoever the Sixers, right? You're gonna be like, what?
Kings and the Cavs, yeah.
If it's the Kings versus the Sixers, NBA would never let that happen. There's no way.
Not a chance. Well, Coach G, thanks for coming on the pod. This was awesome. I can't wait to get all kinds of content out from this, and hopefully we can have you on down the line. And I'm still well in my playing days, so I'm gonna need to invest in some gold standard sessions because
let's get in the gym, man. Let's get in the gym.
Summer's coming, and that's the time to get better. More work, please.
Yeah, you know what time it is.
All right.
I appreciate you guys.
I appreciate you too, Coach G.